It's not a priority right now. 5 words. That's all Linda in Human Resources said when Sarah walked into her office for the third time in 6 weeks. Linda didn't even lift her head, continuing to write something while Sarah stood there explaining how her manager, Chelsea, had been stealing her wages for 8 months. 47 hours one week, 52 the next, 54 the week after that. Every single hour beyond 40 went unpaid. Why? One morning, Sarah woke up and discovered she was suddenly reclassified as salaried exempt, even though she was still doing the exact same job she had done for 2 years. We'll look into it, but not right now, Linda cut her off. In that moment, something inside me cracked. It didn't shatter, but it cracked, like dropped glass that hasn't yet fallen apart, but you know it's ruined. My name is Sarah. I'm not the person who causes trouble, I'm the person who fixes it. At Phoenix Logistics, I handle inventory and accounting. I organize shipments, track lot numbers, and make sure products arrive on time. I'm good at details. In my line of work, details are everything. I started here 3 years ago on an hourly wage. When my great old manager, Betty, retired, Chelsea came in. 31 years old, sharp suits, and relentlessly ambitious. Management said she always exceeded targets. What they meant was she knew how to make the numbers look good on paper. 6 months later, Chelsea called a meeting and announced promotions. My name was on the list. Senior Inventory Coordinator, $52,000 salary per year. I did the quick math. With a regular overtime, I was making $48,000. The new salary sounded like a raise until I realized that every single extra hour I worked now came at a personal cost. I was no longer eligible for overtime pay. The next day, I went to Chelsea. The hourly breakdown seems lower than what I was earning with overtime, I said. You're salaried now, Sarah. You're paid for the value you bring. This is a step up, more prestige. She leaned in. You will be making higher level decisions. But I was still just counting boxes. I managed no one and made no strategic decisions. I accepted the promotion. But by the 3rd month, Chelsea started scheduling mandatory weekend inventory counts. My schedule ballooned to 50, 60 hours a week. I began tracking everything in a private notebook, and I learned that 7 other people in my department had been similarly reclassified. Then someone in accounting mentioned it. Chelsea received a massive bonus. Department costs had dropped by 38% under her management. I realized it wasn't brilliant management. It was a fraudulent reclassification to avoid paying overtime. It was wage theft with a fancy title. I studied the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA, and my job as a coordinator did not meet the criteria for being exempt from overtime. I went to HR, to Linda. First visit, I politely explained the situation. We'll look into it, Linda said. 2 weeks passed. Nothing. Second visit, I brought printouts of the FLSA and a list of my actual duties. Our lawyers have confirmed your duties require professional judgment. You are correctly classified, Linda stated, clearly reading a prepared script. I was working 57 hours. Third visit, 6 weeks later. I was exhausted after a 62-hour week. This time, I wasn't polite. This isn't legal. I've documented everything. Something has to change. Linda, without looking up, it's not a priority right now. I made it a priority. That night, I filed a formal complaint with the State Labor Board. I included not only my own hours and the names of my colleagues, but crucially, the financial link between Chelsea's bonus and the illegal classification. 4 days later, panic hit the floor at Phoenix Logistics. Chelsea's assistant was running. The state inspectors are here. They're demanding payroll records for the entire department. The inspectors arrived without warning. It was the only way to get true data. Linda and another HR representative approached my workstation. They were pale. Why didn't you tell us you contacted the State Labor Board? Linda's voice was strained. I put down my notepad. I told you 3 times. You said my concerns weren't a priority. I made them a priority. The investigation took 6 weeks. I gave a statement and showed my notebook. Chelsea barely left her office. After 6 weeks, an email went out. Certain positions were incorrectly classified as exempt. The company is required to pay all back wages for unpaid overtime. 2 days later, I received the envelope. The calculation showed $18,400. That was the amount stolen from me. The biggest shock was Chelsea was gone. She wasn't just terminated. The legal department, trying to protect the company from further liability, determined that her bonuses were financial benefits obtained through illegal labor practices. The company demanded she return 3 years' worth of bonuses, $127,000. Chelsea, who had used the money for a down payment on a house, would have to pay it back for years. The total the company had to pay out to 18 employees was $340,000. They returned that money because one person stopped asking nicely and started demanding legally. The new manager, Erica, called a meeting and said, "I have reviewed your positions. Effective immediately, everyone who was classified as exempt is returning to hourly pay. You will be paid for every hour you work, and overtime will be compensated at the proper rate. Titles don't matter as much as fair compensation." I went back to inventory. Now, when I worked 50 hours, I got paid for 50 hours. The system was simple and honest again. Sometimes people ask if I was scared to file that complaint. Yes, I was terrified. But more than that, I was tired. Tired of asking for basic fairness and being told it was not a priority. Sometimes making something a priority means taking it out of someone else's hands and putting it into the hands of people who actually care about fixing it.